A lot of Georgia voters have already cast their ballots, but they're returning to the polls on Tuesday to help other voters get through those long lines. 14-year-old Andrew Larkin has a busy day at the polls Tuesday after he gets out of class at noon.
Did you ever expect that you would spend election day at the polls, even though you're not even old enough to vote?
No, but when she told me, I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, that's something that is understandable and should happen.
The high school freshman and his 12-year-old brother Matthew will hand out snacks and bottled water at DeKalb County precincts that have long lines of voters.
As citizens, as Christians, it is our responsibility to make sure that we are doing our due diligence.
Mercedes and Walter Larkin cast their ballots during the first week of early voting in Georgia, but felt it was important to make this second trip to the polls.
We're just packing some different snacks and bags, and we'll be, passing it out with boxes, yes, so that people can just grab what they like. This election is extremely important, and if people are experiencing that same type of wait, we want to make sure that people are comfortable and encourage them to stay in line and vote.
Larkin says she waited for hours in a long line to vote during a runoff election earlier this year and felt torn about leaving the line to go home and start dinner. But she stayed because voting was just that important and because someone offered snacks. Several organizations are planning to do the same at polls across Metro Atlanta. The Larkins are just proud to be among many DeKalb County families working the lines to help their fellow Georgia voters.
We all have our own idea of who we want to have in office, but most important, we need to remind people that they need to exercise their right to vote every single time because your voice matters.
Portia Bruner, Fox 5 News. A Covington family says they are grateful for the police officer who intervened and saved their son's life earlier this month. But Officer Matt Holbrook says he's just grateful he was in the right place at the right time with just the right training.
Thank and show the appreciation to the officer, Matt Holbrook, and other officers, EMTs.
Words of thanks from a family grateful for the Covington police officer who saved this sweet boy's life. Officer Matt Holbrook says this thank you note from the parents of Adrian Tovar means the world to him. But holding the 15-month-old just 2 weeks after their first encounter absolutely warmed his heart.
We went out there yesterday and talked to them and got to see him and see that he's doing fine. Seeing him up playing around and he was crawling around on the porch yesterday was a good feeling.
It was May 2nd when Holbrook rushed to the Tovar family home on North Street following a 911 call.
The family was obviously upset and yelling.
He says the toddler was struggling to breathe.
I couldn't feel any breathing, didn't see any breathing, so I grabbed him and started doing back blows to him, and after the third blow, he looked up and became responsive and started breathing.
Doctors treated and released little Adrian from the hospital the next day. And a few days later,
the Savoy family cannot thank everyone enough for all of the help.
A thank you note arrived at Covington Police Headquarters, reminding this night shift training officer why he's grateful he took an oath to serve and protect the city of Covington 7 years ago.
The family was very grateful, not only to me, but to all the first responders, the fire department, the EMS. It's always a good feeling when you do something that actually helps somebody and you get to see the after effect, because a lot of times we don't get to see that.
Portia Bruner, Fox 5 News.
Hold on to me, girl, bud. These are the children that we were meant to have. This was the journey that we were meant to be on. And so we're going full force into this and doing the best that we can with the abilities that we have.
Jason and Jennifer Tuttle have been on this journey for 14 years. The couple's 2 children, Zachary, 13, and 11-year-old Samantha, are both special needs. Born with multiple medical issues, limited mobility, and requiring wheelchairs.
Yeah.
Find out that we have 2 kids with medical disabilities, all very similar, 2 years apart. The typical response I get is, I don't know how you do it. And my response to those people and anybody that may be watching is, I'm I'm just one father doing what I have to for my child or my children.
His most pressing need is suitable transportation for his children, who've outgrown their current vehicle.
The wheelchairs literally scrape each other going in. I mean, I couldn't get a piece of paper in between them.
It's increasingly difficult to lift and secure them in the vehicle, and will soon become impossible to transport both children at the same time. Both parents work, but with living expenses and medical bills, their budget is strapped. The family started a GoFundMe campaign to help raise $60,000 to purchase a wheelchair-accessible van that will accommodate the children into adulthood. A vehicle big enough to comfortably fit 2 wheelchairs and outfitted with the necessary safety equipment.
Roll them into the van. We would use an automatic hydraulic lift to lift them in the van, and we could just roll them in.
The Tuttles say they are overwhelmed by the show of support they've already received, not only from family and friends, but strangers eager to help.
That have just seen the story, that have seen our need and what they've seen with me on social media and what I post, that have just, out of the goodness in their heart, decided that they wanted to donate.
If you'd like to help the Tuttles, you'll find the donation link on our website, fox5atlanta.com. Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
94-year-old Clara Jackson was almost 40 years old when she finally had the opportunity to vote for the first time. She hasn't missed too many elections since then. And after waiting decades to vote, she says no line is too long to cast a vote.
I enjoyed going, and I was glad I was able to walk around and go out there on my own.
Douglas County voter Clara Jackson took these photos after she and her daughter, Della, voted last week at the Deer Lick Park precinct in Douglasville. Friends had urged the 95-year-old to avoid the risk of coronavirus exposure and vote absentee, but Miss Clara wasn't having it.
They wanted me to mail in, but I didn't agree in mailing. I wanted to go straight to the poll. I went straight to the poll.
Going straight to the polls means a lot to Miss Clara, who was 39 years old the first time she voted in Galion, Alabama, not long after President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
I did wonder would they ever be able to vote when it was talking about it. Would it ever happen for the black people to vote? But it finally passed, and the black people had a chance to vote. And I was glad that I was able to be in that number to vote.
In fact, Miss Clara still has the number she was assigned on her 1965 Certificate of Eligibility to vote. It's just a simple but poignant reminder of how far she and this democracy have come. Della Clack had never seen the certificate until her mother showed it to her last week.
So I was amazed to see that she had that piece of paper from 1965 where she signed it, and it was just amazing to see it.
The first time I voted, I stood in line a long time. I was in a line for a long time the first time I voted, but I was glad that I was able to go to vote, and in my intention, I tried not to miss their time. When time to vote, I'd be able to go every time they said time to vote, I go.
Miss Clara urges others not to be discouraged by long lines expected at the polls in the days to come, and insists no line is too long to ensure your voice is heard.
And I tell them to vote because you don't know what it's going to, how it'll turn out to be, and how it will help you in years to come.
Portia Bruner, Fox 5 News. Like a lot of us, Christian White made some mistakes, and some of those mistakes left him in the Georgia juvenile justice system. But after he paid his debt to society, he got a job and a second chance at success, which is why his murder on Mother's Day has left his mother absolutely devastated.
He had a smile like this world and some of the best dimples that I just love.
It helps to remember the things that make you smile when you're mourning the sudden loss of your son. And Felinda Shinholster says she has a lot of reasons to smile when she remembers her 18-year-old son, Christian White. But the anguish and the heartache hover right there at the surface as she wonders why someone would shoot her son in this Jonesboro mobile home community in broad daylight on Mother's Day.
It hurts bad that I lost my child, but I'm sitting here now, I got compassion for someone else that probably is going to go to prison.
Police say Christian was shot in the chest while he was in his car. then crashed into this mobile home on Crossbow Trail just after 3:30 in the afternoon. It's still not clear who's been arrested or who's on the run, but Felinda is hoping witnesses or even the gunman will just do the right thing.
I want to be able to lay down and go to sleep knowing that someone has been apprehended.
Fox 5 introduced you to Christian in August 2020. He was just 17 years old, a recent graduate of the Department of Juvenile Justice Fresh Start Initiative.
I love the job. I like the atmosphere. I like the vibe.
Pinky Cole, the founder of the popular Slutty vegan restaurant chain, had just hired him because she says he had a spark worth reigniting and a light that could still shine.
It helped me a lot because I could be doing a lot of other things, but now I'm here.
She was right, and she ended up promoting him by December, right around the same time he learned he was going to be a father of a beautiful baby boy born in February. Felinda says Christian changed for the better and was determined to be a good father and a great role model.
But he asked me about bank accounts, credit, and just recently he was asking about stocks. He wanted to invest in stocks.
What do you hope people will learn from his experience?
When you're trying to do right, just focus on that path that you want to your destination to be.
From Clayton County, Portia Bruner, Fox 5 News.
Vernal Savoy's life came to a tragic end here along Roosevelt Highway near Hunter Road in South Fulton. Witnesses told police suspect Keenan Crane was racing another car the afternoon of May 16th when he swerved to avoid another motorist.
We had two witnesses that stated that he was racing another black Charger or Challenger, and he swerved into the northbound lanes, lost control, and hit a white Buick, I believe, that was traveling southbound and pushed him into the ditch.
40-year-old Savoy died on scene.
We were devastated to learn of, his untimely passing.
Longtime friend Tanika Douglas grew up with Savoy. They were schoolmates, members of Westlake High School's class of '98, a close-knit group. Douglas last spoke with Savoy at a Christmas gathering in 2019. She says an arrest in the case brings his friends a sense of peace as they struggle to come to grips with his senseless death.
We thank the South Fulton Police Department for acting swiftly, and, we want to see justice served for Vernal.
Crane turned himself into police on May 27th. He faces several charges, including homicide by vehicle, speeding, and reckless driving.
When he hit the initial vehicle, the Toyota Camry, he was traveling 127 miles per hour. He went into an uncontrolled spin, and he actually hit the decedent at approximately 89 miles per hour.
The lieutenant says South Fulton PD and other metro area law enforcement agencies are aggressively working to put the brakes on street racing and says drivers engaged in the dangerous activity are putting lives at risk.
They may think they know what they're doing, but in fact they don't. And these vehicles can get out of control. They can blow a tire. Anything could happen, and it could result in a fatality of a pedestrian or another motorist.
Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
It's no secret, many teenagers and young adults who are not old enough to drink will do what they can to get their hands on alcohol.
It's something we're always vigilant about. It's always there. It's always happening.
Mac Thurston is the owner of Mac's Beer and Wine Midtown Liquor. He's been in business 34 years and says he's seen a growing number of authentic-looking fake ID cards presented by underage customers at his shop. It's located near several colleges. He says he's confiscated about 90 fake cards just this semester.
They are scary good IDs. They're tough to catch.
That's why he uses IntelliCheck scanning technology to verify customer ID cards.
It either goes green for go, yellow for, we need to hold this sale for just a moment, take a little closer look at the ID. But if it hits red, no go, no sale.
And at Mac's, that's an automatic confiscation of the fake card. In the rare event that someone wants to dispute a red result, there's an officer on duty who can run the card against state records.
A lot of people, they understand game over. What I'm more surprised about, besides the fact that they can get them, is how good they look.
The criminals now have this down to a science where they can even print these, in a camper van with a generator on a high quality printer.
IntelliCheck CEO Brian Lewis says young people order a lot of authentic looking cards online from vendors overseas. But he says many fraudulent ID makers directly target fraternities, sororities, and even high school students who are willing to pay good money for a bad ID.
The pricing that I was just looking at this morning for Georgia, if you order one by yourself, it's $200. If you order it with one other friend, it's $80, and 4 or more, they drop to $70.
Lewis says clients like Max Beer and Wine have reported the higher rate of authentic-looking fake cards all across the country. He hopes state lawmakers will crack down on the problem, but says in the meantime, parents should intervene.
To make sure that the kids know that you can get in serious trouble for this, and especially depending on where you're at. And what do you want to get, you can be charged with felonies for having these fake IDs.
Everybody should be concerned about underage consumption of beverage alcohol. It's not healthy.